So my project is covering solar panels. So environmental science, it's the study of environmental problems and human interactions within the environment. It includes fields like ecology, biology, chemistry, and engineering. It's used to study humans' impact on the environment and influence policies to protect the environment, and it also considers economic and political factors. So one problem in the environment is the emissions released by fossil fuels. So fossil fuels release greenhouse gases when they're used. They also release carbon dioxide, which introduces too much to the environment. And things like coal cause water pollution, and they also add to the greenhouse effect, which includes climate change and global warming. And it's also a finite resource. So one solution is to use renewable and sustainable energy like solar panels. So what is a solar panel? First off, solar power is energy that comes from the sun, and solar panels, they're made from photovoltaic or PV cells linked together. They convert sunlight into energy, and they're made up of two layers of semiconductive material, usually silicon. So phosphorus is put into the top layer to increase the amount of electrons, and boron is put into the bottom layer to produce a positive charge. And it uses photons to separate the electrons from atoms. And then these positive and negative charges create an electric field at the junction of the layers, which generates an energy flow. And then the conductive plates on the cell sides collect these electrons and transfer them into wires to be used. So the pros and cons of solar power. The pros are that it saves money over time. There are very low maintenance costs. It produces the most energy during the peak time. So people mainly use electricity during the day, and that's when solar power is mostly collected. It reduces strain and pollution of distribution equipment, which is needed to transfer fossil fuels. It produces no air, water, or carbon pollution, and the only input needed is sunlight, and it has little to no impact on wildlife. The cons for solar panels is that there is a high initial cost to install them. They do need lots of space to power lots of things. The emissions involved in them are released during production, and it can cause instability in an energy grid because usually they only go one way, and this would be making them go both ways. And the panels are only about 20% efficient, so they only can transfer about 20% of the energy, and it depends on the usefulness depends on the location and how sunny it is. So the roadblocks to solar power are mainly the cost, especially the initial cost, the amount of space it takes to put them in. As you can see from my picture here, solar fields do take up a large amount of space. The sunlight availability, which is dependent on the location, so some people may have more access to it than others, and also that we are currently dependent on fossil fuels, so it'll be a hard transition to make, and that the fossil fuel companies have a lot of political influence so that they'll want people to keep using fossil fuels. So the political and economic impact is that politically there are things like net metering, which gives credit on utility bills for energy generation, and there are also new policies and reforms happening, such as the renewable electricity standards, which says that utilities must get a specified amount of energy from renewable sources, so everyone is starting to have to go to renewable sources to help the environment. And also permitting reforms, which is making it easier to get permits to get solar panels and renewable energy, and this is making solar power more accessible to more people. And the economic impact is overall positive because government policies such as tax incentives and subsidies are being used to encourage people to use more renewable sources. It increases property values to have solar panels on a roof. It creates new jobs too to install and make and maintain them. And renewable energy is becoming more and more accessible with how prices are constantly dropping on them, and about how it's becoming more and more affordable for people to use them. And here are my references.